السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Respected brothers, sisters, young brothers, young sisters, respected elders, in the beginning of the summer holidays, we said that we will do a series of sermons and discussions and khutab to benefit ourselves, but also to benefit our youth and younger generation. And today it's probably the last Jummah before the school term begins. 6 weeks have passed, and this is the nature of life. Time will pass. Those who make use of that time will benefit and will be satisfied that we have done or we have achieved our goals in the time that we had. And those who did not will regret, and this will be the case on the day of Qiyamah. We as human beings are nothing but time. Some of us Allah has destined to live 15 years, 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, 80 years. But that is what we have. That is our greatest asset as human beings. And if we utilize this time in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it will be beneficial for us in this world and in the hereafter. And if we don't, then we will face difficulties in this world, but more importantly, there will be regret on the day of Qiyamah, and that regret is an eternal regret, and one after which there is no chance to go back or return to the world in order to redo or undo what was done. And so amongst these, just to summarize, we talked about the importance of our relationship with Allah, our Muslim identity. We talked about the importance of prayer. We talked about the personality of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and our relationship with him, and the importance of educating ourselves about the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he is our model, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him as a guide, and he is the most merciful and the human being that had the most concern for any one of us sitting in this room and anyone from his ummah until the day of Qiyamah. The last piece of advice, I know that Imam Hamid spoke about characteristics of success last week, right? And so some qualities, if you have in your life, you will be successful bi'idhnillah ta'ala in this world and in the hereafter. And so to continue with that, the last piece of advice that we will remind ourselves of, and this is the advice from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the advice from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that is extremely important for our success in this world and in the hereafter. And that is keeping good company. الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين. O you who believe, be conscious of God, of Allah, and be in the company of the truthful. And he says in another verse, وَلَا تَرْكَنُوا إِلَى الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا فَتَمَسَّكُمُ النَّارِ. Do not be, this is paraphrasing, right? It's not the literal translation. Do not be in the company of the wrongdoers. It may be that you will be punished because of that company. And so we have clear instructions from Allah to keep the company of the righteous and the truthful, and people who are honest, and people who are of upstanding character, upright character. And we have a command to refrain from being in the company of the wrongdoers. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the consequence of good company and the consequence of bad company in the Quran. With good company, Allah states, الْأَخِلَّاءُ يَوْمَئِذٍ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ عَدُوٌّ إِلَّا الْمُتَّقِينَ. The word Khalil, we all know that Ibrahim alayhi salam has a label of Khalilullah, the intimate friend of Allah, the best friend, if you want to use a term that is easily understood. Very close relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khalil. Allah states in the Quran, Al-Akhillau. That is the plural of Khalil. Intimate friends will become enemies of one another on the Day of Judgment. The people that you consider, this is my best friend, this is my close friend, I will give anything or do anything for this person, and this person has the same feelings towards me. And they say that, I will take, what's the term? I will take a bullet for this person. Right? There's no one in the world that will take a bullet for you, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, on the Day of Judgment, this type of friendship will turn into enmity. They will become enemies to one another. إِلَّا الْمُتَّقِينَ. Except for the righteous, except for the pious. What will be said to them? يَا عِبَادِ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْكُمُ الْيَوْمَ وَلَا أَنْتُمْ تَحْزَنُونَ. O my servants, you have no fear and no grief. Enter paradise. And so the only friendship, or the only friendships that are everlasting, are the ones that are based on the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And righteousness. In another place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, وَيَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ. On the Day of Judgment, the wrongdoer, seeing that he or she is going to hellfire, they will bite their hands out of grief. Like some people bite their nails when they get extremely stressed out. These will bite their hands, their fingers. Allah says, وَيَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ. On that day, the wrongdoer will bite his hands. يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي اتَّخَذْتُ مَعَ الرَّسُولِ سَبِيلًا. And he will say, how I wish that I have followed the path of the messenger. يَا وَيْلَتَى لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أَتَّخِذْ فُلَانًا خَلِيلًا. I wish that I had not befriended so and so. لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ بَعْدَ إِذْ جَاءَنِي. That my friendship was the cause of me being misled from the path of the messenger, from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the path of success. And Allah says, وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِلْإِنسَانِ خَذُولًا. That shaitan will betray mankind on that day. And friends will betray each other on that day. And so we have in the Quran injunction to do what? To select, because we are social beings, we have to have company. Allah created this in this way. And actually Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam encourages company. And he says you should not stay on your own. Because staying on your own, what happens is that yes, there is no human company with you, but there is what? Shayateen that are always present. And so refrain from staying on your own. A Sahabi radiallahu anhu said that good company is better than bad company. But solitude is better than, if you can have good company, then you should not stay without company. But if you can only have bad company, then it is better to stay on your own. And so, since we are social beings, and it is a need, a human need, that we feel like we have to interact with people and connect with people and have a sense of belonging, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us how to select our friends. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has also guided us to how we should select our friends. Select friendship, number one, it should be for the sake of Allah. And number two, that you should look at good qualities in a person, righteousness. We said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, stay in the company of the truthful. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam informs us in a hadith that a person on the day of Qiyamah being judged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we know that deeds will be weighed, and so his deeds will be, good and bad deeds will be equal, and so he will go around in the mahshar on the day of Qiyamah seeking. Allah will say to him, if you find one hasana, one virtue, you can enter paradise. That's all you need. And so he will go to his parents and his wife and his children, and everybody will say, look, and he will say to them, was I not a good son, an obedient son? Was I not a good husband? Was I not a good father? And everybody will say, no, you are absolutely amazing, an amazing person. However, today I'm afraid for myself, so I cannot help you. And he will go on and on, trying to, when you're in need and you start looking at your phone book, who can I call? And so he will reach out to anyone and everyone that he knows in order to get one hasana. At the end of it, he will find one person who he had befriended for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For the sake of Allah. They had their friendship. And so he will ask him, this person will only have one hasana. But because the relationship was for the sake of Allah, when he asks him, he says, look, my brother, I only have one hasana. It seems like you've done well for yourself since you've equaled out the scales. And so there you go. I will give you this hasana. Why is he doing this? For the sake of Allah. That person realizes this is the point where I may gain some mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you say, I only have this one hasana, but I want for you to enter paradise, and so I will give it to you. And we give him this hasana. He'll return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy. Say, Ya Allah, look, he will not even think about, look at this, even for this friendship was for the sake of Allah. But he's in such need that he's not thinking about his friend who only had one hasana and he's left without now. He will go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy and pleased and say, Allah, there you go, I've got it. Can I now enter paradise? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask him, who did you get it from? He says, so and so was somebody that I met and I had established a relationship with him for your sake. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, go and take the hand of your friend and enter paradise together. So this is what the effect, the opposite. We said on the day of Qiyamah, the wrongdoers, they will blame one another, whereas the righteous will be supportive of one another. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has already informed us that righteous people will intercede in the favor of the dwellers of hellfire. So there will come a point where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say to the righteous people who are pious and good, and they have entered paradise, He will say, look into hellfire and see if you know anybody there that deserves intercession. They did some good, they did some bad, but you had a relationship with them, and so you want to intercede in their favor. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove people from hellfire, and the means will be their friendship with righteous people. And so in keeping good company, we benefit in akhirah, but we also benefit in this world. We have a saying in Arabic that says, ما كان لله دام واتصل. Whatever is for the sake of Allah will continue and will remain connected. وما كان لغيره انقطع وانفصل. And whatever is for other than the sake of Allah, it will end and it will disconnect. There comes a point where that relationship will end. And so this applies for all relationships, even with our family members, even with our siblings. Well, you see families, children have grown together in the same home, parents die, and then there is no more relationship between them. Why? Because everybody is living their life and they can't agree on, they don't have any common ground. So the thing that was holding them together was the parents. Parents have left, disconnected. Friendship, people, you study together, you're in the same class, you're in the same year, you are together for some time, but there comes a point where that companionship is going to end. You have a relationship with someone because of mutual interests, whatever those interests may be. When those interests, because we change in life, we don't have the same, the things that interest you when you are 10 are not going to interest you when you are 15. And what interests you when you are 15 will not interest you when you are 30, and so on and so forth. And so what happens is that eventually, despite the mutual interests, what happens is the relationships will break. And this is a lesson that young people should understand and learn. We all had friends when we thought, we will never separate, and we will always be there for each other, and we will always look out for each other. And this is, they say, you don't choose your family, but you choose your friends, and blah, blah, and so on and so forth. But there comes a point where even something as simple as you move away from this area and you go and live somewhere else, and you're disconnected, and so you cannot maintain that relationship. You get married, you have children, more responsibility, you have a career, you have a job, you can't maintain that relationship. And so we benefit in akhirah, but we also benefit in this world. Because if we maintain friendship with people who are righteous, and we do it for the sake of Allah, then regardless of the challenges, regardless of what happens, you will always find that person by your side. Because it's for Allah, and Allah is everlasting. And so no matter what happens, because all relationships have what? Ups and downs, and then we interact with each other, and we all have bad traits and bad character, and we hurt each other. When it is for the sake of Allah, it will always continue. And you will find the person kind and generous and forgiving and truthful and honest and protective. But when it's not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it will come to an end, because egos will come into play. He did this, she did this, he said that, she said that. And then and what happens is that at the end we end up hurting ourselves, because in every relationship in your life that breaks down, you leave a part of yourself with that relationship. Right? Because you've put so much energy, so much of your time into building that relationship, and then it comes to an end, and so you are hurt, but also you've lost all of that energy, all of that effort, all of that time is gone. This is why at times you have, you know someone for a year or two, and then you realize, and afterwards you say, what? It was a waste of time, waste of effort. And so what should we look for? What are the qualities that we should look for in friendship? The first one is belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person is, Rasulullah said in a hadith that do not keep the company except of a believer. That is not to say we can't be friendly. Rasulullah was friendly even with his worst enemies. You can be friendly with everyone. But the person that you allow into your heart and you give space into your heart should be what? A righteous believer. Be good and kind to everyone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us even to your worst enemy. Rasulullah was forgiving and generous and kind and merciful towards his enemies. And so you can be friendly with everyone. But the people that you allow into your heart should only be people who are believers and people who are righteous. Right? What should I look for? What is the point of this relationship? To be reminded of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Somebody that will remind you of Allah. Somebody that will share your happiness. When you gain something in this world, they are happy for you. And you can see that in a person's eyes. If you tell them of something, something that you have achieved in the world, in worldly achievements or matters, they're happy for you. This is a true friend. Somebody that becomes, annoyed at your success is not good company, because they are going to have jealousy and envy, and that is going to harm you. And so somebody that is happy for your success. So when you are successful and when you gain, they are happy for you. And when you are in difficulty, they are in supporting you. There are people who, when you're going through good times, they're there. When you face hardship, they will not answer your phone, not your messages. Right? They will avoid you like the plague. Why? Because that is not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is only for my interests. And so I have no interest in helping you. If you have a problem in your life that doesn't include me, why should I help you? What do I gain from it? Only a person who is a true friend will help you in the time of need, and realize that actually by helping you, I am helping myself. I know that there will come a time when I will need help, and I will need support, and I will need somebody to stand by me, and so I will find you. Somebody that will be, first, it should be for the sake of Allah. Number two, that somebody will be happy at your success. Number three, in your time of need, they will support you. Number four, somebody that will advise you and give you good advice. And so if they see something that is bad in you, they are not afraid to discuss it with you and point it out. This is a good friend. Somebody that tells you, what, you're a good person, but at times you do these things and they're not appropriate. Or this is not the behavior of a believer. Or this is not, a good characteristic and a good quality in a human being. Somebody that will point out your faults. But you have to be able to receive criticism. This is our problem, right? And so you want somebody that's, when they point out your fault, they're gentle in their approach, right? And they're pointing out the fault, not to tell you, I'm better than you, look at you, you don't pray, look at you, you do this or you do that, you do this haram. And no. And there are people like that, by the way. There's people who will keep your company. Certain people that only keep company of those who they see as lower than themselves, in whatever terms. Let's say, for example, I am wealthy, and I will keep company of those who are less wealthy than I. Why? Because I have this dominance in the relationship, and it makes me feel good, right? And I flaunt all these nice things that I have to these poor people, and I take, I'm energized from their envy and their, they glorify me, so I feel good. Whether that's in terms of material, whether that's in terms of beauty, or in terms of intelligence, or whatever, right? A person will want somebody lower than them because there's no competition and I'm on top. And so you're just my sidekick and I will just use you for my own benefit. And you have that even in religious people, right? And they'll always tell you, oh, look, astaghfirullah, what you're doing is haram. They're not telling you out of sincere concern for you. They're just telling you to let you know that I'm much better than you are. And so you don't want to. What you want is somebody that will advise you sincerely. And they're not afraid because they're doing it for the sake of Allah. And they're confident that we have this relationship for the sake of Allah. Or even if it is not for the sake of Allah, but we have a strong bond, and so I'm not afraid to come and tell you that you have done this wrong, or you have done that wrong, or you shouldn't behave in this way or in that way. Because it's very difficult to change. Actually, it's very difficult to see the faults within yourself. We all are, in our minds, 100% great people, amazing people, the best thing since Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and there isn't anybody better than us. We all have this attitude. And at times you need what? And this is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the righteous believer is a mirror for his brother and his sister. You need a mirror in order to see, the spot that has come out or the defects. Without that, you think that you are, mashallah. And so you need somebody that will advise you and give you good advice and will point out your faults, but at the same time, they will cover up your faults. Somebody that you can trust. We say in our Moroccan dialect, we say a very deep well. When you fall into a very deep well, you can't get out of it. And so if that person sees something wrong, and we all have bad qualities or characteristics, he will cover them. If you've done something bad, he will advise you, but he will cover. Your honor is very important to them. If they're sat in a gathering and somebody talks ill of you, they don't like it. They will react. This is what somebody that loves you truly, and this is a true friendship. They will protect your honor, and they will not reveal your secrets. Anybody who reveals your secrets, you shouldn't put energy into that relationship, because what will happen is the end result is that you are always going to be hurt and you are always going to be disappointed. And so we said, to summarize, that it is very important. Company that we keep is very important to our success in this world and in the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran commands us to keep good company, righteous company. And he says, be with the truthful. Right? And so even if a person is not a believer, you are, let's say for example, you're at school, at college, you don't have any Muslims around you, or those who are Muslims are not of good character. There is no harm of keeping company of a non-believer if they have good qualities, good character. Why? Because that person will eventually benefit from that relationship, and you may become the means of their guidance. And if they are righteous in the sense that they are good people, then if you reveal the truth to them and if you share your belief with them, because of their purity or their goodness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make you a means of their guidance. And so we said it should be, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, keep the company of the righteous, do not keep the company of wrongdoers. It's beneficial in the hereafter. Bad company is harmful in the hereafter. In this world, good company will bring benefit in the sense that you will find support, you will find advice, you will find somebody to share good moments with, that is not going to envy you or be jealous of you. You're going to find somebody that will give you good advice. And the opposite, if you keep bad company, even if you think to yourself, well, I'm good, I'm not doing all of these bad things, but I'm just keeping this is my company, my classmates or my, whatever the reason you are. And what happens is eventually you are going to be affected. And even if you are not affected, let's say for example, I have a group, I spend time with a group of 4 people. They are all committing major sins and disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I like their company because they're light-hearted and they're funny and they make me feel good, and they're, like people say, they're good at heart, but they've got their problems and it's okay, and I keep their company. One of 2 things will happen. Either I will be impacted by them and I will commit the sins that they are committing, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold me responsible for being in the company of people who sinned and not doing anything about it. We know the hadith that Rasulullah says in previous times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Jibreel alayhi salam in order to destroy a locality. So when Jibreel comes down, he finds a person who is righteous and worshipping Allah and does not do anything wrong. So Jibreel alayhi salam asks Allah and he says, is this person included in the punishment? Allah says, include him in the punishment. For he worshipped for himself. He never thought about the others that are around him. And so either you are going to fall in the trap of shaitan and commit the sins and be affected by the company. If you are not, and you manage to protect yourself to a certain degree, you will be held responsible for not commanding the good and forbidding the evil. And so you are aware of all of these things. What did you do about it? And so either way, you are at loss. Having said that, if I see that a person, like we said, sometimes a person is a weak believer, but they have good qualities, and at the same time they do certain things that are reprehensible. If I think that this person can benefit from my advice, then I can keep company of that person, but with the condition of that I will advise them. And I will try to get them to, and I have to look at how they react to my advice. So if you have company of somebody who is doing bad things, and when you remind them, they say, well, actually, yes, you're right, and inshallah, I'm going to make an effort, and I'm trying to find my way. Okay, that you can maintain. Why? Because inshallah, hopefully you are not going to be affected, because you are doing the what? Every person is either a da'i or a mad'u. Either you are inviting others or they are inviting you. When you invite others, you are protected. Right? And so if you are in this sort of a relationship and you see that there is goodness in a person, and I'm trying to make them better and I'm trying to advise them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they receive that advice in a good way, then this is a good company. But if I try to advise somebody and they say, well, what, so you think you're better than me, or they don't listen to what you have to say, and then it's better for you to protect yourself or not keep that sort of company. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to one last thing. Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'een are named Sahaba, companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because of this relationship. They are not students, although they are students of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They learned from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? But they were not known as his friends, not as his students, but rather his companions. And so and they benefited from the companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They are the best of mankind. Why? Because of the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to understand this very important key to our success, and allow us to keep good company of the righteous and the pious, and protect us from bad company and its harms and evils. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. We kindly request, brothers and sisters, when the adhan is complete, that we all stand up, inshallah, and we make space for our brothers and sisters who are waiting outside. So we'll stand up and complete the rows, then we can offer our sunnah or sit with the
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله